The woman was sent to a mental hospital by her family. She thought she would spend the rest of her life here. But one day, a man burst in with a group of people. The man was there to find his sister, who had been dead for years. Seeing the woman, he had the illusion that his sister was still alive. He immediately had his men take the woman to his home. He treated her like a treasure every day. He had clearly made her a substitute for his sister. What he didn't know was that the woman wasn't mentally ill. In fact, she was a perfectly sane and normal person. She was sometimes silent and sometimes acted crazy, but it was all just to protect herself. She had grown up in a harsh environment. She was an abandoned baby adopted by foster parents. When she grew up, she was arranged to take the disasters meant for the foster parents' daughter. They sent her to the hellish mental hospital. She never expected that she would be taken home by the CEO, but living in constant fear every day made her feel suffocated. She tried every way she could think of to escape and get revenge on her foster family, but she never found the right opportunity. Until one day, she overheard the maids talking about the CEO going out to attend a banquet, and that he wouldn't return for several days. She knew her chance had come, so she pretended to have a fit and started running wildly around the room. The maids, afraid that something would happen and they would be punished by the CEO, had no choice but to follow her. When the maids weren't paying attention, the woman grabbed the sleeping pills from the table. She secretly dissolved the sleeping pills in the water. Not long after, the maids all fell into a deep sleep. The woman then went out to the street. Finally, she breathed in the fresh air of freedom. She was going back to her foster parents' house to make them pay for all the humiliation she had suffered. At that time, her foster family had no idea that danger was approaching. When they got home, they were still chatting and laughing. But when the wicked sister went to take a bath, she found that the closed faucet suddenly started flowing. The lights in the room began to flicker on and off. Terrified, she quickly ran to the living room, but there she saw an even more horrifying scene. The photos on the wall were all cracked. She couldn't help but scream in fear. Her parents rushed over when they heard her scream. Then they saw the message the woman had left for them on the wall. The woman, having successfully taken her revenge, was in high spirits. She thought about going to the night market to reward herself with some barbecue, but as soon as she sat down, she saw people leaving one after another. It turned out that the entire night market had been reserved by the CEO. To avoid being discovered by the CEO, she wrapped herself up tightly, and then she prepared to leave. But she was unexpectedly stopped by the CEO's men. It turned out they had mistaken her for a vendor at the barbecue stall. Only then did she realize that in her panic, she had put on the barbecue shop owner's clothes. She had no choice but to find another opportunity to leave. But the CEO's men urged her to serve the food quickly. She had no choice but to bite the bullet and bring the skewers to the table. As she walked, she prayed that the CEO wouldn't recognize her. After putting down the skewers, she turned to leave, but the CEO suddenly called out to her.